Welcome to Collision at Home. If you've never done Collision with us before, this is what we're about. Our life and our faith colliding. So the Point Church, we are all about helping people, and that could be you, take your next step in your journey with Christ. And so one of the best ways that we can keep in contact with you and for you to know what's happening in our student ministry is our app. There's so many great things in it. Some of you still don't have the app. Just get the app. One of the things in the student section in the app is text updates. Man, I would encourage all of you to do this. It's a way for me to just send out mass information just like that to everybody. It makes it super simple and easy. There's other social media things on there that you can follow, which is cool, but that's a biggie. Also, we would love for you to do our digital Devo. Our digital Devo, and I'll be the first one to say, I don't do it every single day sometimes, so I just confess that. But man, the days that I do it, it's awesome. And I've done much better this go around, and so I encourage you to do the digital devotion that's in student resources as well. Without further ado, let's jump into the good life. Hey, what's up everybody? So I'm so glad that you're here joining us again this week. And as you can see, nothing's happening here. Our Wednesday nights would be going crazy right now, but it's empty. There's stuff everywhere. And we're just waiting. We're waiting and we're ready to get back. But we're going to jump right into things. So this is the third week of our series, The Good Life. And during the series, we've been walking through the book of Proverbs, which is really just a bunch of wisdom. And that was actually kind of the bottom line for week one. Week one, it was, if you want the good life, then you should seek wisdom. And then last week, if you joined us, then you remember in the video, kind of the bottom line again for that week was, if you want the good life, then you need to care about your reputation. Hey, what you do today does affect tomorrow. And so that's important. And so this week is something a little bit different. If you want the good life, then you got to treat today like it matters. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that and jump into some other things. But just to get you guys started, everyone wants the good life. And so here's the good news. The good life that God has for us is for all of us. It's for everyone. And there's things that you can do right now to make that happen. Now, I know for some of you, as soon as you heard me say that, there's things you can do right now to make that happen. Yeah, there's things that we have to do, right? There's work that has to be put into it. And some of you right now, you may already be checking out. Don't check out. Please don't check out. This is going to be a really, really good week, and I hope that you guys have some great conversations in your group. So I just want to share with you guys kind of a personal story that ties in with this. So some of you know my background, some of you don't, so I'll kind of go through this very quickly. When I was younger in high school, I felt called to ministry. I was doing ministry and I was volunteering in ministry, and I thought I was going to get a job in ministry, and I did that for years and years and years. It was just about 10 years of doing that as a volunteer, and the door didn't open. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, I've got my other life things. I graduated from high school, I went to college for a semester, and then I was just I don't know what I want to do. Should I go to seminary? Well, I can't afford that, and I couldn't afford private school and different things. So I was going to community college, and I just didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. So I dropped out after my first semester. I quit, and I just started working, and then I was volunteering as much as I could at my church. I was like, well, the door's going to open. God's called me, so I'm going to follow. I'm going to listen. I was putting the work in. And so then fast forward quite a few years, I get a job here at the Point Church, which is interesting, 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago. And so I've been working here, and things have been awesome and great, and God's blessed. But then there's still been that chip kind of on my shoulder. And I'll explain why. When you go to summer camps, and especially big summer camps, like some of you guys have done Journey Camp and Crossroads and Infuge way back in the day. When you go to these camps, you've got a bunch of youth pastors. When I do conferences and I see other youth pastors and leaders, these are the first three things that normally come up. Where's your church, or what church are you with? How big is your group? And where'd you go to seminary? And so for me, the first two were fine, and years ago we were much smaller, so there was a little bit of we're this big. But then that one question, where'd you go to seminary? I didn't go anywhere. I went to the school of I worked really hard and God just opened up a door. Oh, so you don't have any theological training or background? I'm the Bible. I didn't really know how to engage in that. And so there was a sense of insecurity. And so I just felt for the longest time, for me, for my family, for my job, for my future, like, man, this is something I wanted to do. I wanted the good life. Getting back in school was the good life for me. And so in February 2017, I jumped back into it. That was just a couple years ago. I jumped back into it, and I can promise you guys, it was so hard. Just signing up was so hard. There was so much fear. There was so much anxiety, the fear of failure, all these different things. Like, I was struggling. But God gave me what I needed, and I did what I needed to that day. And then the next day. I mean, it was long. I mean, putting the kids to bed at like around 8 o'clock and then doing homework and studying and reading and all my stuff until like midnight every night. Like, it was a struggle. If we want the good life, we got to put some work into it. Okay, so we all know what it's like to do hard work. I mean, if you don't know, just come over to my house and I've got some logs that still need to be chopped. And that's right, I've got an axe and we can chop wood together. That's hard work. You will feel that. But we all know what it means to kind of go a little bit further, go that extra mile and do things that we don't necessarily want to do in order to get the outcome that we may want. And if we all want the good life, if we all want things in our life that are going to be good for us, I'm reminded of a student years ago who was in some trouble and they gotten arrested and some other things were going on in their life. So I met with them for lunch and I said, "Hey man, what's going on? You're making some kind of bad decisions that are going to take you down this path." And I just tried to reason with them. I'm like, "Hey, think 5-10 years down the road. What does that look like for you? What do you want?" And he's like, "Oh, I'd like to have a wife and a family and a house like on the lake, and I'd like to have some nice cars and my own business." And I'm like, "But dude, you're not making any kind of decisions to get there. You're making decisions that are going to take you down a different path." And I'm like, "You got to make the right decisions. You got to do the hard things. You got to do the hard work to get there." And so we all know what that is. But what are some of those things that keep us from doing the hard work? What are some of those things that keep us from making those right decisions? For me, like I said in my story just a minute ago, some of that can be fear of failure, right? Fear of not getting the outcome that you want. For some of you, it may be kind of the reputation that you've built up in your life to this point, and you don't want people to actually think that you give a rip about something. I mean, there could be a variety of things, but I think if we're honest, for some of us, it's so much easier to do the things that give us that instant gratification right now in the moment than to put that thing off and work a little bit harder on something that we know we should do that we may not see a result for weeks or months or years to come. And so those are the things that we have to wrestle with. Those are the tough decisions that we have to make. That's the hard work that we've got to put into if we want the good life. Okay, so let's take a moment and let's hear what do the scriptures have to say to us about, making the most of today, and putting in the hard work. And like we've been in this book Proverbs for the last several weeks, and this guy Solomon wrote pretty much all the Proverbs. Now, I will say this. They're principles. They're not promises. But let's go ahead. Let's take a moment and just let's read what he has to say here. This is in Proverbs 6, and we're going to read verses 6 through 8 together. "Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, they labor hard all summer, gathering the food for the winter." All right, so that's our passage. But what in the world? You may be sitting there thinking, why are you reading to me about ants? And why is this king from thousands of years ago, why is he talking about ants? And if you just kind of like glance over it for a second, yeah, it might not make any sense to you. So let's take a look at what these ants are really all about. Okay, so with that scripture that we read and that video, what in the world does that mean? And once again, it may be easy to just kind of look over and glance over it and be like, that doesn't mean anything to me. But take a moment this next week and watch some ants. Just go outside, just watch some ants. And that's what they're doing. They are working like crazy. They're working so hard for this one goal, just to have food for the winter. Because here's the deal, if they don't work hard, if they don't bust it, if they don't make the most out of every single moment, even though I don't know what they would do for fun or for hanging out, but if they were to put that work off, then in the winter they would just not exist. They would cease, they would perish, right? And so that's the same with your dreams. This dream of living the good life, if we don't put the work into it every single day, this day matters so much, then it's just gonna perish. That dream, that idea of wanting the good life, it's gonna be out of reach, out of your grasp. So what's your goal? You may be sitting there thinking, well, I don't have a goal right now. Well, you need to think of something. I mean, right now you have more time than ever because of the quarantine. So think of what that goal is. Maybe it's a physical goal, maybe it's a spiritual goal, maybe it's a career goal someday. I mean, I don't know what that goal is. And then this is what you've got to do. You got to figure out what are the steps, the small things, the day-to-day work that I've got to put into it to reach that goal for the good life. Because here's the bottom line. To have the good life, you've got to treat every day like it counts. So as you guys head to your small group Zoom breakouts, this is what I want you to answer. What's the area in my life where I struggle to do the hard work?